Are live. Whoop, whoop. What were we going to talk about?
I don't remember. From the steps down here, then watching your whole setup of this device.
Welcome to the Steak Knife Show. As you can tell, the confusion is there as usual. Yep.
Concussion Central. Let's do this.
Concussion.
Cop, cutie, cute and on duty. Blue booty.
Yeah. It had some. So let's talk about skin in the game first, since that's
Skin in the game. Okay.
So what do I mean by that? There's books about it. Probably one of the nerdiest books you can read is by Nicholas Nassim Taleb. And I just started listening to it again because I don't physically read a lot of books anymore. I do.
I love reading way more than I like listening.
It depends for me. I do enjoy the physical act of reading, which is kind of like one of those things where you do kind of have to think like skin in the game. Like you physically do the activity to like isolate yourself into it.
Reading has really helped my concussion. It made me sick at first.
Really?
Especially the smaller the print. But by
Yeah.
kind of very, like in small bite chunks, like pushing through it, I've noticed I've sharpened up. There's less of a haze, especially in my vision. I don't know if it was like exercising something or what, but
Probably.
it helped.
If you're a doctor, let us know.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they make this analogy about one of the Greek gods who has to be in contact with the earth to have power.
As a mythology buff, I think that was a giant that Hercules had to wrestle.
Yeah, and he had to
He had
hold
to
him
hold
off
him up in the air and choke him.
Mm-hmm. But it's kind of one of those things like you have to have
One of Poseidon's sons.
Yeah, it was Poseidon and Gaia.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. It was the myth. Like the last part I listened to was talking about how Hercules defeated him by holding him up in the air and crushing him.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about that is like that applies to everything. Like even just what we're doing right now. Like we podcast and we're not superstars at it, but you have to do the thing to get good at the thing. It's just like anything else we do, like it's jujitsu, use of force, like all those things. And that even comes to people who evaluate situations like that. So that's kind of where we're going. Like if you are evaluating a use of force and you don't train and you don't have physical contact with people and you don't remember what that's like, even in a sterile environment, it's hard to remember that there are things that happen so fast that only the person there doing them can feel, sense, and see them, which that goes back to one of the ways that case law is written around use of force.
Something that I guess that I see in it is you have people who used to do it, right? Like what are they called? Mustangs in the where they start as enlisted and then work their way into
they transition to officers.
Yeah.
The thing about that is like some of those dudes still do the thing.
Right, no,
depending
I know.
on what rank they are.
I understand,
right, yeah.
but like that's like, when
Yeah.
you start front lines and you work your way up, which is something about our organization I like. A lot of people that work their way up started as at a front line. But in this day and age, something that's very frustrating is knowing the words and hoops that you have to say to jump through so that you can't be blown back on is so ingrained and like you're an automaton. Like you just say it, but you have no concept of it. So like, hey man, I know you did the best you could in the situation, but that hey man, I know you did the best you could in that situation is just thrown out there instead of or like it's just empty words. There's no consideration to it. At least it feels that way, right? Like, or truly. The bad one is you had like, and I liked your jiu-jitsu one. You do all this work, get to black belt. You know what? Maybe I don't need to go to fundamentals class. That's a lot of spazzy white belts,
true.
right? Like maybe I'll just not go. And then it's like, oh man, like those advanced class that's full of a lot of competitors. So maybe I'll just go to the open mat. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you don't train, but people still come and ask you questions because they remember you on your road to black. It's the same idea when you are working your way up through the ranks and all of a sudden you're an office person. Mm-hmm. And but it falls to the office person to look at incidents and try to arrive at a decision.
Yeah.
And like, it's a very, it's something that needs to be taken seriously. But in this day and age, everyone's so worried about getting sued or being misconstrued as biased or
Yep.
or not the good old boys club. Like,
Well, there's the other aspect of that too, is like the fact that there even has to be a moniker of, oh, that person's really for the officers.
for the officers,
Your role inherently, if you're in leadership, is for the officers.
for the department, for the officers.
Like you're there.
I always
for
like the
people
term
you
for the
hire.
department because that's inclusive. Now, if you get an officer who's not good, I'm singling you out because of your poor behavior, and it's not good for the department, right?
I'm for that officer leaving.
Yeah, yeah.
I am absolutely for their goal. I will
especially
hold them to the same standard, and I will mete out the discipline that's necessary.
Do you want to talk about what it means to being like the if in my experience, right? And it's something I'm very thankful for. There are different standards, and when you are held to a standard,
Mm-hmm.
and you do it, you're doing what, like, it's always that never ending thing. Like, are you a company man or are you a man of the people? Like
You can be both.
I believe so.
Yeah,
But-
you have to be both to actually succeed. That's
I
where
agree.
people will lose. Like, it's not about being for the officers. It's, are you willing to do the things that are correct and then own them?
Are you
Even if you mess up, you still own them too. Like,
a
both.
big one for me that a lot of like my supervisors and you do is like you lead from the front. Like,
Yeah.
you'll anything that you're going to ask me to do, you specifically are likely next to me as we do this dumb thing. Like, I don't know if this is going to work, but we got to get this done. Like,
I don't even know if I would say it's dumb. It's just they know that there's a certain amount of risk involved.
yeah.
So
I guess you're willing to accept the risk. You're not
Yeah.
yelling at me from the back of the bus.
yeah,
And or worse, you're not saying I did something wrong when you weren't there.
correct. If I say that, then I don't really truly don't know what I'm talking about if I haven't fully investigated it and not only talk to you but talk to other people that were there, because there is an aspect to things like this which also, like, if you're not there for an incident, you go to the people on the call, garner their perspectives, but you also garner the officer that took the action, because yet again it goes back to that idea of like that touch, that sensitivity. It's written into case law. It says the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene has to be taken into account.
What I guess for you when you hear that, because again, that's another like what'd you say? You said charged phrase one time when I said trauma-informed care. Like, the perspective of a reasonable officer is one of those automaton things that's it's regurgitated, but
Without
there's no
understanding.
weight or understanding to it. They just, like, you're supposed to say it, so you say it. It's like as you're actively struggling with somebody, like, it's that everybody knows it. Like, sir, stop resisting. Like, that's
Yeah.
almost what
Yeah.
they, like, that's your go-to, but it like, no matter what they're doing, you're just going to say it. They could not be resisting, and you
Yeah.
see officers saying, stop resisting, and they're really not resisting.
Yes,
Like,
that is also a thing.
so, like, I mean, what is your like, how do you define it? How do you describe, like, a reasonable officer?
So, if we're going, this is deep inside of Nerdland here for anybody, even in
Then
the
you're going to lose
uniform.
me. Got it?
Right. But the thing is, like, you have practically done it enough that it kind of comes out of your behavior. Does that make sense?
So it's a repetitive response?
It's
Like
not a repetitive response. So
No, like, I mean, like, it's a trained action. Like, it's something that, like...
So a lot of the things in the Graham versus Connor case law, specifically one of them that talks about, so it's action versus reaction. Like, there's all these like external factors from Graham that are not specifically named out in Graham versus Connor, but the officer is making decisions, and good, bad, or indifferent, those decisions ultimately end up in being like, we're talking specifically for a use of force. So when that officer touches somebody, that is the initiation of the use of force, right? As soon as they take control of somebody physically, without that person wanting that to happen, they are now encroaching on their Fourth Amendment rights. They may be doing it lawfully because they're there for a certain reason, like the person may have committed a crime or they believe to have committed a crime. So all those things lead into this situation. That officer making that decision, as long as they are responding to the individual's level of violence, either above or at that level, that could be perceived as reasonable by almost any officer that would evaluate the situation. Does that make sense? Now, opinions may vary, but we're looking at it from purely an objective stance. Okay. So the reasonable officer on the scene, it's like if 3 of us get together and we look at a call, we're like, I can see myself doing something like that because of the aggression of the violence. Once we have all the facts garnered together and we like understand the situation, maybe there's video, maybe there's body cam, whatever. I mean, you think about it pre like a lot of overhead cameras and body cams, it was just somebody's statement.
Yeah, and like, you know, and
I mean, shit, you policed in an area where probably it was just a written statement.
Yeah.
Like there were no body cams, there were no overhead cameras in Shelby County.
Not really, no.
Right.
The dash cams.
But like that's one angle. It's not attached to the officer. So unless it happens right in front of your cruiser.
I forgot that we didn't wear. Because I've worn them for so long. I forgot that there was a time that I didn't wear one.
but you see what I'm saying? Like your word, your evaluation of the situation in court and to your department was important, and it still is. A body cam cannot replace an officer. An evaluation of a video cannot replace an officer's assessment of the situation. Specifically, like, let's take you as an example.
Okay.
You are on the extreme end of the spectrum as far as what I mean is, like, there's a brand new officer who just entered the academy.
Okay.
Or let's say they graduated the academy because they're not really an officer if they haven't gone through the full academy.
Okay.
Or some type of training, right?
Mm-hmm.
They hit the street. They have no previous training. This is their first law enforcement job. They dreamed about it, but they've never done anything. They've done DT in the academy. Then there's you. Since a very young age, you've experienced physical combat in a controlled gym setting or not. Both, right? Like you would go out and play with no mats, no anything, and be stupid, right?
There's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We don't need to
No.
delve into anything stupid. But you've done all those things from a very young age all the way till now.
Okay.
And you've applied it in competitions where you've fought people. So your sense of violence is literally on the complete polar opposite end of Booty McBooterton, fresh out of the academy, dreamed about being a cop, but never did.
Cutie.
Maybe played a sport. And the hardest thing is he got some elbows in the ribs on the basketball court and dumped on his face a couple times.
Okay.
You know, for a couple of seasons in high school basketball, if he even made it off the bench.
Okay.
Like maybe he wrestled. I mean, that's
the best case.
That would be the best case if you wrestled from a young age up. But we're saying somebody with your average dude who did maybe one sport, was moderately athletic, goes to the academy because he doesn't want to go to college or whatever, does that too. Who knows? To you.
Okay.
Two very different creatures, right?
All right.
So your feel for violence is different. Mm-hmm. And also that other person's perception, they're going to be like, what do you mean he knows more than me? What do you mean he knows more about violence than me? I played some sports. I got roughed up a little bit. Like you've been locked in a cage with another man who's trying to beat your skull in with his hands. Like it's the ultimate expression of unarmed violence.
Yeah.
In a referee situation. Mm-hmm. Like there's differences there, right?
There is. Then we've said it on some past episodes. The gift, especially of jiu-jitsu, is kind of like the best one that I've seen is, I know the famous one is from Joe Rogan's podcast where somebody was like, you've never swam and you get thrown in the ocean, right? That's a good one of jiu-jitsu, right? But like the one that I always attribute it to is when you start riding a bike, you have training wheels. And the goal is to be one of the dudes in the city who's texting while holding bags, not on the
Yep.
handlebars, and then you
Yeah.
see him lean around a corner,
Yeah.
and the handlebars aren't turning. He's not getting flipped over the bike.
Yeah.
That is the feel, the touch.
Yeah.
We've mentioned it a few times. Where like you and I know how bad a fight's going to be from touching, right?
Yes.
And like reading, like the touch, the feel gives you a read of the subject, right? In terms of, before I forget it, from
Yeah.
Concussion Brain, one of my favorite things about body cameras came from Law and Order with Elliot Stabler,
Is that the
Special Victims Unit, with
SUV?
SVU.
I know.
And he's about to be tried for murder.
Yeah.
And then and they saved it to the last 5 minutes. The medical examiner, they're tight. She's been in every episode. Like,
Yeah.
they have a good rapport. She sees a shitty flip phone camera of Elliot Stabler after the takedown attempting to give CPR, which is what broke the kid's ribs and killed him.
Yep.
And she said, had I known that, this never would have been a thing.
Yeah.
And it was like their take on like body cameras coming forward. What a gift of body cameras. The problem is
Yeah.
you got God view cameras that show something like, and then from that angle without the audio, you don't know. Like, and then like the thing, there's a boon to body cameras, but there's also one like when a situation happens, like a hands-on situation, my body camera, which sits here, is up against the person and you can't see anything. Thank God the other people have body cameras.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like assessing a situation solely from one angle without input from the people who were there is why the body cam, why the God view cams can't replace the officer's perception of the violence.
I agree. Pause. That was a tangent. What was your point in bringing up the new boot and me?
The levels of skill.
Okay, so that was just for
We
the
were talking
read.
about. Well, we were talking about.
Sorry, I'm trying to clean up our show so we don't get lost on tangents and like answer questions.
But that idea of what's reasonable or not, you may do something and that person may not understand it. But it may be completely reasonable.
Oh, okay. So if me and Mick Booterson are partnered up and
Yeah.
like we're at
His idea of what's reasonable and yours is different.
I remember, I have one of those.
Yeah.
I was, I forget where we were. It was a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And I was it wasn't my normal FTO. It was one of the more like farm boy sheriffs.
Yeah.
And like we're talking to, like he is on a first name basis with this man. So
Yeah.
I can kind of infer that like they grew up together.
Or at least knew each other well enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember that deputy's name, but like they're talking like this, and all of a sudden there's a pause, and I had just enough experience. My hair came up, my partner goes boom, boom, and knocks him out with 2 elbows.
And you were like,
Oh! And he was like, he was gonna run, he was gonna fight real good, and he's like, I haven't seen you fight, and he's always a problem. And I said, okay. But the deputy was a little bit taller than me,
yeah.
a little bit more fit, like bigger.
Yeah.
He lifted weights,
Yeah.
but like Billy Ray Bob was in overalls, and they were working hard. Like that was a big, strong
dude.
farmer.
Right.
And he came in and he went whap whap, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
and he was down, and I
Yeah.
was like, did you just kill him? Like, I mean, I was like fresh.
You just napping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and and then I remember like I had the same kind of attack of conscience. Like, did this man just assault this man?
Right.
Like, I'm not about this. Like, right. And
Yeah.
then, thankfully, like one of the upper, I don't even remember if it was a lieutenant, maybe it was a captain. I don't remember. He was like, your first run with Billy Ray? And he said, come with me. And they had a whole file of just videos of Billy Ray getting some momentum and just fucking up mountains of deputies. And he was like, this is why that happened. And I said, I didn't know that. Like
Also a factor.
I didn't have
violent history.
Yeah. I had no clue. And so I was about to file a formal complaint against an FTO for excessive force when he definitely saved me from an ass whooping. Like,
And himself.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and And I guess that's the other thing, like going back to like our administrators who kind of phase out of the line duty, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just like riding a bike, it's just like surfing, it's just like shooting, or it's just like wrestling. Like your tactile feel goes away, but also your ability to put yourself in their shoes. And I'm not saying that like officers should have benefit of the doubt. They're doing whatever your officer is, whether it's security, military, whatever it is. Like their main function is confrontation, verbal, physical, like, and things are happening. Like it's hard enough to articulate in a report. Like I got a feeling, I had a gut instinct. My experience, it was like something was wrong.
So one of the what's the automaton phrase that you always regurgitate? In my
knowledge, training, and experience. In my professional opinion, in my knowledge from my knowledge, training, experience, I would have done this.
Yeah.
But like
that's his automaton phrase.
That's something that I regurgitate a lot. But it's funny that you say that because like I'm so special. When I say knowledge, I think of like my time on the mats, or no. When I think of knowledge, I think of like my police academy, right? Yep. So like the morals, my training, time on the mats, my experience, time on the road. That's literally, it runs through my head as I regurgitate it to try to keep me present and in the moment. And then when I say it, when I give my opinion, I have to remind myself after that phrase, when I say what I'm going to say, the person I'm talking about has a fraction of what I have. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just only good at a certain thing. I have one skill set. If you talk to anyone who knows me, I have one thing that I'm good at. One interest, one passion, that's it. Like other than my daughters, like
he's not. It's true. Like it's not like he's not taking away from.
And I'm
himself,
not even saying I'm that good at it. I'm just really interested in it. It's one of my favorite Marcelo Garcia quotes of all time. He's like, I might not be the best at jiu-jitsu, but I promise nobody loves it as much as I do.
Yeah.
And that's a true statement when it comes to self-defense and applying martial arts in a law enforcement or security setting. In the confrontational, like real life setting is the only thing I've been interested since I saw a Power Ranger cartoon. Like it just is. So like I try to keep myself present with like this officer wanted to wear a uniform and thought cops and robbers were cool. So like to the best of his ability, I think it's okay. With what he was facing, is it how I would have handled it? No. But I have decades of like thinking about when I'm in the shower, I'm thinking about it. When I'm on the mats, I'm like, what if he had a gun? Like if I'm walking my dog, I'm like, man, what would I do if somebody came up and grabbed me?
So that's an interesting bridge too. Like that's where you get, if you are in uniform and doing training, that's where you get your intention from. Like while you're training, like what's my intention while I'm training to take this back? Because jiu-jitsu isn't the be all end all for the streets unless you have an intention, because it can teach you horrible habits.
Pulling guard on the concrete.
Sacrifice throws and pulling guard. Don't do it.
Why would you go to the ground where his buddy's going to come kick you in the head?
Yeah.
Like you better have
honestly, like you're such a good takedown artist. Like you make me a better, like, I'm going to stop this. I want to stop this. I want to stop this. And you even told me recently, you're like, you've gotten harder to take down. Like
you're hard to take down.
Good.
But caveat, because I have to insult you.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that I'm scared to take you down is it's almost like you intentionally try to land on my toes with your elbows and knees and break them. You've done it twice. You've broken my toes twice because you're like, if I'm going down, something's coming with me.
Well,
like, I attribute it more to like you just suck at falling.
Well, yeah. And what's sad is I'm not even dogs.
Puppy dogs, come here.
Mifa.
Hey.
Hi, Zelda Princess.
Mifa, you didn't even come to me this time.
Mifa Grace.
Mifa.
All right, they're gone.
Oh, they're not coming.
Okay.
Oh. Hi, Mama Rachel.
Okay.
Oh, wow, you look amazing. Here, hold it. Whoa. That probably didn't sound good. Aww. That was so cute. You guys didn't see that, but that was definitely a Kodak moment. Cool. And back in there.
But yeah, like we've talked about like rolling like our training with intention and stuff like that. But yeah, like you're right, my takedowns suck, but also
that's a big one though. Yeah. Like when you're gonna train, in terms of like let's manipulate it towards law enforcement, right? Like I just remember lieutenant that I had that ran my range at my last department. He realized that we were all just shooting at paper.
Yeah.
And so he started like erecting walls. He started like yelling behind us suddenly with like live ammo. It was kind of scary. Like he had way more trust in my other partners than I did.
And you were like,
and then he'd make you like do jumping jacks or like sprints and like stuff like that to try to get your heart rate up and try and make you realize like you're not shooting at paper. That's a bad guy. Like you need to
simulating violence.
And then he gave it one of the best talks he ever gave me. It's always those one.
We're recording again. Okay. Just start from the best talk my lieutenant gave.
Oh, so like we were shooting. Sorry, technical difficulties. We're back. We finished shooting. We're kind of all say it's hot. We're all in body armor, sitting out, and that's when some of the best talks come from. If you have somebody who's thoughtful enough to share, right? And I remember my lieutenant said, "Have you guys ever thought about killing somebody, like taking a life in the line of duty?" And my dark humor, I thought he was going to say a joke or something.
Yeah. And
he just stared at us, and there's that uncomfortable silence, and I was like, I mean, yes. I have come close before I made it to this department. I've come close to shooting 2 people.
Right.
And like I was dead to rights, like it was center mass, and it was going to be and like I remember I carried a SIG for one of them, and I could see the hammer coming back from because there was a double action.
You were pulling.
Yeah. And he ended up like dropping his knife, and I was like, and it really messed with me. But I know I sat with it, but I know that I would be able to carry it.
Right.
To hear the 7 other officers be like, "No, I never thought about it." What?
It was
you never thought about it? You never thought about like you might kill someone? Like
that.
I thought there was something wrong with me.
No, I think if you go into a profession where you're in a uniform, and that's something I thought about. They talk about it in boot camp a lot, like to instill the idea in you, like that may happen. But like, so of course, naturally, me being like more book oriented and stuff like that, I started reading about it. And then when I knew some people well enough who I knew had killed people, I asked them.
That was my.
I asked them like, what? Obviously, like I think if you're truly going to take being, it's an overplayed term, but I'm going to say it anyways. Being a warrior. Like you're choosing a battle, whether it be a battle in your own city, town, state, like whatever, or you are like internationally going out, like representing your government, you are going to some type of war. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I asked them, I was like, what? Like, it was actually me and one of my buddies. It was like one of our sergeants who had been in OIF 1, Operation Phantom Fury. His entire squad, almost to a T, got murked. His leadership, the squad leadership. So like his sergeants, his corporals, and it came down to Lance Corporal. Dang. And I'll leave his name out. He was a young dude at the time. He was maybe like 19 when he got promoted to fire team leader and then squad leader later on. And he's like my proudest moment is that I brought my guys home who was left. He's like, everybody came back. He got wounded, didn't even want his Purple Heart. Like Dude. Stuff like that. But he's like, you put the front sight post on him, you pull the trigger, and you move on.
Yeah, you don't.
He's like, you think about it later.
Yeah.
He's like, especially in that environment, like they were literally rolling down roads.
You're losing,
shooting people.
Yeah.
Like, it was like the stories of describing it. Like, you have dudes who are familiar enough with killing that they have nostalgia and not like PTSD.
Spicy deja vu.
Yeah. Like, I know that sounds like there are dudes like that, and I don't think that they're sick. Like, it's their.
Everybody's built differently, and you need guys like that as long as they're in control. It's an age-old quote from A Few Good Men.
Yeah.
You need those ones, right?
And people, like, the average person would be mortified to have an in-depth conversation with those people, but also they're not without feeling. It's not that they're psychopaths or sociopaths. Like
They have better emotional control over it.
yes,
And but there's so many factors. Like there's alcoholism, there's drug use, there's a lot of like self harm, but like self harm could be like I knew a guy who like killed in the Marines, and like he would go on these like he'd be gone for like 4 or 5 long weekends, rucking it like in the wilderness, and everybody accepted his very baseline answer of like it's to get away from the noise. And then one time at a gym, we were drinking. Noise. I was able to kind of like peel the layer back a little bit, and he's like, I go out there and like suffer for what I've done. Like I did some horrific things, and like by taking away like creature comforts, like I feel like I'm paying my penance. And I was like, what? Like, 'cause he doesn't, you would never, like he's squared away. Like there isn't a single hair out of like alignment. Usually the
calmest, kindest, even keel people I've ever met are some of the most dangerous.
That's the separation for me from psychopath, right?
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of people who've done horrendous things and they're calm. It's, are they kind?
Yep.
Did they lose their humanity, right? And the guy who didn't want his Purple Heart, there's a friend of mine, and like I hate to say it, we're not as close as I wish. Yeah. Like he's a friend of mine that I know through Jason, and I knew this dude for, God, I want to say like 5 years.
Yeah.
And then one night we were all drinking, and I was having a hard time with a call or something, and Jay, who'd been drinking good, because Jay's such a good storyteller, he let slip that this guy like saved not just his squad, but saved like a courtyard full of people, because he like tackled a dude with the gun, and he's almost embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
Like, and he doesn't want to talk about it.
Yep.
Like, and in like knowing that, because I already knew he was a good dude.
Right.
The way that he handled and got embarrassed by that story was all I needed to ever know, that I'd work for that man. I'd follow him into battle. If he said, go do this, I would do it without question. Yeah. Whatever you need. I absolutely
have the same problem. Like, there are stories about me from what we do right now, and I'm like,
yeah.
Like people that I trust, I tell the story, but I don't advertise it. And when those things happened, and like I was given like praise for them, I was like, just did my job. Like, please don't talk to me about this.
Yeah. Well, I oftentimes like, I don't know, like I've had a few of those, but like, again, like I don't think anything of them. Like a decent human being. I just did what a decent human being.
That's how I thought of it.
With my abilities, did it. Like, that's just all.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing. Like, I just was a decent person. The other one that you mentioned, I talked to somebody who couldn't. He was a SWAT officer, one of our like badass dudes, and he was chasing. There was when bath salts and anhydrous ammonia was getting stolen from farms and stuff like that, and Meth had turned with a giant python, shot 2 shots, and from the hip he goes boom and splits his dome.
Yeah.
Never came back. Like he couldn't. A big truck outside?
Must be.
Bobcat, something like that.
Airplane.
He tried. I think they gave him an extra try to pass the psyche eval, and he just couldn't. He was never the same. He couldn't fathom it. He couldn't get over it.
And that does not mean he's weak.
No.
That means he's human.
Right.
Like, everybody's different. Even like I've met dudes that are hard like that, and something like that happens, and it's an immediate change. And I've had people like, that's just weak. No, they're not.
The other side of it is it doesn't even have to be killing somebody.
Yeah.
Some people can't handle violence. Like some people can't handle watching a kid. Like we had that one guy break over having to go hands on with a 12-year-old, but the 12-year-old is unfortunately sick and needed.
They were very violent.
It was very violent.
Yeah.
And like he had a full breakdown and couldn't come back. And like there's no shame for that. Like whatever. Like everybody has a breaking point and everybody has a limit. It's what scares me so much about med workers, whether it be nurses, doctors, our officers, working 16s. You are straining the human psyche ability to not only perform well under pressure, but like you are seeing horrific things, motorcycle crashes, self-harm, domestic violence, like person-on-person violence, or just sick individuals, like sick, like physically sick or mentally sick, not like sick like a bad person. But they are just acting out of like wherever their mental capability is, and they do awful, horrible things that like you can't fathom, and then you have to control this person, bring them to some kind of baseline, and then wrap your head around something that you never would have imagined while you're answering another call.
Well, that's the other thing too, is sometimes in the settings we're in, and even like law enforcement, fire, like stuff like that, people are like, I think I know my limits. I'm going to tell you right now, you may have never touched the hot stove of your limit, because you may come up on a situation that you never thought was possible. I've had it happen a couple times. Like, oh, I didn't know this. I would ever experience this.
You couldn't write this in a movie scene. Like, you never.
Yeah.
Like,
and the other thing too is like being around people who have been exposed to it for years and seeing them. It's not break. Seeing them, what actually attaches emotion for them to certain things. One of the hardest ones I ever saw was somebody that you and I currently work with. That's not security. They're a very highly skilled clinician, and there was a situation where it was a person who was lower functioning, and they had a twin. And this is twins who are both lower functioning, and the other twin was told, however they communicated, that had happened, and the sheer grief just wrecked this person, and like uncontrollable weeping. Like, I've known this person for years, and it just cut them down.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things like, you don't know.
Yeah. Whatever's going to break you.
You've seen it all. Like, this person has fundamentally seen the worst of the worst of the worst for decades. And it's that one tipping point.
Yeah.
That like hits you like a ton of bricks.
And
like,
that person hits it, right?
Yep.
And then goes to their next call and does something
Yep.
that might not be like it could be like, let's just say like suspect, right? Like you whatever kind of mistake it is, right? And then again gets judged for it by people who used to be an officer, and they don't do it anymore, and that wouldn't have broken them.
Yep.
And like they
don't know.
That's the problem. Like that's the like you
Or
gotta make sure
they
that you have some
say-
kind of. That's why like I was actually one of the only ones that was super excited when they said that they were gonna do, when after the George Floyd thing, they were gonna have a committee that reviewed it. But then logistically, getting people that aren't just vying for some kind of position, aren't there because they have a bias, like who can truly like look at it with training and experience in like, and be fair. Like, how do you? And that was always the funny thing. Like, how are you?
Have you ever watched the Columbus committee that reviews those things, the Civilian Board of Review?
No.
You might as well just pull up a camera of the circus. There might as well be elephants shitting on the ground and clowns doing dumb shit, because their assessment of what's going on and how things should or shouldn't happen is so detached from what's actually happening in these situations that it is inherently like, it better be comedy, because if you're serious, like we have a problem.
I don't know if there is a way to do it. Again, like
just whatever you think about that, that's fine.
The force,
I'm
whatever
saying it
force you're part
publicly.
of that made you find this show and listen to these two goobers talk about it. Like, just know like you're doing a thankless job. And what's that line from the SWAT movie? I said it upstairs. Oh, sometimes doing the right thing ain't doing the right thing.
Yep.
And like you gotta, at the end of the day, man, like you gotta be, or girl, you gotta be able to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I can live with that.
Yeah. And
right?
honestly, shoot us questions. Like, we're not, I guess on paper we're experts, but
I certainly don't
with
feel like an
violence,
expert.
just to be clear here, with violence there is no straight answer, and neither
always
of
liked-
us know everything.
You said it one time. We're connoisseurs of violence.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I'm interested in that. When I'm let me tell you this, like when I'm
This
going
situation
through the
around, yeah.
memes on Instagram, I'll be like, oh no, I missed something,
Yeah.
and like it's like you can tell from the blurry bar video, like something's about to happen, and then you see it, and then I'll rewind it and be like, ooh, his hand should have came up, he should have read that differently,
Yeah.
and then you started, I wonder how drunk he was. Was he on drugs?
Yeah.
I wonder what led to this. Did he grab did he grab that dude's girlfriend's butt? Like what happened? Like you said.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
Yeah.
And then assessing the violence afterwards. Like that's like I am interested in like I guess
Same.
human interactions that
Same.
result in physical violence.
So, ask us questions. I don't know. Tell us we're stupid.
Are you wrapping this up? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
stay whimsical, stay combative.
Bye.